Hey, book besties. Welcome to More Than a Book Club podcast. I'm your host, Leyna.
And I'm your other host, LJ. And what are we doing today, Leyna?
We are going to do something fun. We are going to talk about our favorite books in a different way. We're going to go on Goodreads and find one-star reviews of our favorite books and see why other people hated them.
Right?
I think this is going to be super fun. I had kind of seen this. We follow an account on Instagram, and I was trying to think of what the name is. And they do one-star reviews from Goodreads, and it's just hilarious. And as I was going through, I was trying to find funny ones, but sometimes they're not so much funny as they're like, oh, okay.
Right? Like bringing up some very valid points that I'm like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. No, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something funny.
Something lighthearted.
Yes.
But I think that this will be a fun thing, and it will talk about some of our favorite books, and you'll get to hear why we liked them and why other people did not.
Yes. And I love it. I had a lot of fun doing this. And then I was like seeing cross-eyed, I think. And then some of them, like, I was like, wow, I'm kind of offended by some of these reviews. I'm like, I didn't even write this book. Like, chill out, LJ. They're not attacking you. They're attacking the book. But yeah, it was fun. I agree.
Though. And it brought up some things of, do you hate the book or do you hate the author and their views on things?
Yes.
So that was something that I was like, where do you draw the line on that? Because sometimes it's hard to separate. So.
It is. Yeah, definitely. And then I also can respect if someone's like, so like, obviously I looked up some for Jurassic Park because obviously, and there were some people that like know science, like saying things on there. And I'm like, okay, well, I can't argue with that because I don't know science.
The science of it, yeah.
But I respect that. So I'm like, okay, well, you know what? That didn't impact my love of the story. So whatever. But anyway, do you want to start with one first?
Sure. I'll start off with one. I just read the sequel to this. It was Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. And it's by Jessie Q. Sutanto. I loved this book. I thought it was charming and cozy. And it has a main character who's in her 60s, but she's super cute. Super fun, and kind of builds a community around her of younger people.
Yeah.
And this person's review, this one-star review, you know when you finish a book that is so bad, you are even a little bit angry. That is me after this book that I spite finished because it was $17.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, have you ever spite finished a book?
I don't think so. I'm one that like, I'm like, you make me mad. Guess what? I'm probably not going to finish you. Like,
that's how I feel too. I would just put it down. There's some books that like I'm still working through, even though it's going to take me a little bit like longer. If I hate something, I'm going to stop reading it.
Oh yeah, no. Like, so my family used to do conference call book club, which I think I've mentioned it before. And we did this book. I cannot remember what it's called, but it was like something about like the psychedelic something. Anyway, I don't know. And it's like a very famous book. And I did not make it all the way through. I was like, I am done with this book. I cannot finish it. I do not care to finish it. And I stayed with the book club. I think it was like finally like the last time we were going to meet. And I was like, you know what? I put it down. I don't care. I'll listen to y'all talk about it. But this book was so bad. No, like absolutely not. And I remember that I was like, I can't even spite finish that. Like, I don't think I can spite finish anything. I think the only one that I did was I've talked about before, that Christmas book that in the last 10 pages kills off one of the main love interests.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And so it was only 10 pages, but I sure did spite finish those 10 pages. Oh, I guess Allegiant, I guess I spite finished that, but it was like pretty late in the book that I was like, oh, I hate her now. Like, anyway. But otherwise, no. But yeah, have you spite finished anything?
I was trying to think. I don't think that I have.
Okay.
I don't think that's a thing that I would do.
I mean, maybe some Stephen King that we made you read, like The Stand.
But I also, for The Stand, I genuinely thought I was going to like that one because I love the TV miniseries so much. And I thought, I'm going to like this. And I just didn't. So I kept waiting for it to get better.
And then it didn't.
So that was like more hopeful finish. I will say that the Mr. Mercedes trilogy, I just wasn't interested in, but it was a book club read. So I was reading it for the sake of book club. Maybe those are spite finishes, and I just hadn't thought of them that way. Like 11/22/63. I was angry by the end of it. I just wanted it to be over.
I guess. Okay.
Maybe.
Did you have any more reviews from that one, or is just that
No,
one?
just that one.
Okay. Well, obviously, I think I've given it away. The first one that I looked up was Jurassic Park because it's my favorite. I saved a few short ones. This one I just am sharing because I'm like, someone totally schooled the person that made the review. So it's like in all caps, T-Rexes didn't live in the Jurassic. They lived during the Cretaceous. And also these paleontologists are the most incompetent idiots ever. And then someone commented, yeah, and they mentioned that they lived during that period in the book. They never said all dinosaurs only lived during the Jurassic, and I cut off the rest. But I thought that was funny just because when I was reading the review, I was like, they say that in there, so whatever. All right, then someone said, I can't even begin to give a helpful review. I tore this book in half when I finished it in a fit of rage. No regrets, hated it. And then upsettingly bad. And I'm just going to lump these two together because I also did, well, this is still Jurassic Park one, but I also did The Lost World, which is the sequel. So one more, there's like two females in this book and they're both awful. I think this dude hates women. And actually, I disagree with that because I thought Dr. Sattler was pretty, badass. The other one was a child, so like a 6-year-old. So like, what are you gonna do? And then it's garbage. No point of reading this book. And then The Lost World, I can't finish it. It's just so bad compared to the first book, which I disagree. And then bad science. Oh, Michael Crichton, how can you have gotten it all so wrong? My 10-year-old self is very, very disappointed right now. And I really hate Ian Malcolm. What an idiot. At least there were dinosaurs in it. I was like, that's so funny. Anyway, yeah. So those are those. And, to me, it makes sense that if the science is not sciencing, and there was one that I didn't share, and this is a major spoiler to the book and I should have saved them, but I was not saving long ones because I was like, oh, that's too long. But there was one that talked about how at the very end of Jurassic Park, they are like these raptors that have seemed so smart and are like fighting through metal bars and almost getting them, like, but then all of a sudden they're able to go in this like cave where there's like hundreds of them, and yet it's totally fine. Like, it didn't make sense. Like, and I agree. That's where it kind of got, I think that's where it went. Because Michael Crichton has some Stephen King-esque moments. And I felt like that was a Stephen King moment for Michael Crichton. It is a weird ending to it. But anyway, there also were some reviews of The Lost World that were like, Ian Malcolm's alive, because if you don't know this, Ian Malcolm's character was killed in the first book, as was
really? Okay. I'm like, I've read them, but it's been, I think I read them in like 6th grade.
I mean, you're not like me and read them every couple of years. And then John, what is his name? John, the guy that is it? It's not John Hamilton, is it? Is that, I don't know. Whatever. I cannot believe I don't know. This
Alexander
is like one of
Hamilton.
No, I know. That's where I'm like, John, Hammond, John Hammond. I don't know what is wrong with my brain. John Hammond, the main guy that has all the money. He also dies in the first book. And then he shows up. They both show up in the second book movie. And Ian Malcolm is a huge role in this. He's the main character in the second book. And it is explained in the second book that, it was a mistake, but really it's because Michael Crichton wrote a sequel and needed that character. So they would write another movie. And so that's really why.
Make more money, yeah.
You can make more money. So anyway, but there were some reviews about that. And I'm like, yeah, agree. All right, anyway, you go.
So one of my favorite books is Just for the Summer, which is an Abby Jimenez book. It's book 3 of the Part of Your World trilogy. So if you haven't read the other 2, it's fine. But I really liked that one in particular. It dealt with a lot of family dynamics. And this person, they said, in my opinion, this book is marketed so wrongly. The cover and blip make it sound like this is a fun rom-com, but it is indeed more of a trauma dump book about family and mental health issues, with the romance between the 2 protagonists serving as a backdrop. If that's how it was marketed to readers, that would be one thing. But instead, you expect a love story and end up reading about really triggering family dynamics and human tragedies. Please stop lying to readers and promote these books in a responsible way as what they are, and don't make them seem like lighthearted rom-coms. And I was like,
okay, so
Yeah.
Okay, my question for that reviewer, did they read the blurb about it or did they just see the cover?
Because the cover does make it look like it's lighthearted. I don't know. Let me see. Let's Goodreads this real fast.
Well, because the reason I say that, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I often, I go into stuff blind. And I would say when I read Part of Your World, I also thought it was going to be a fluffy, light read. And it had laugh out loud moments, but it also had some deeper and more serious stuff.
So I feel like I'm reading the blurb now. And it says, Justin has a curse, and thanks to a Reddit thread, it's now all over the internet. Every woman he dates goes on to find their soulmate the second they break up. When a woman slides into his DMs with the same problem, they come up with a plan. They'll date each other and break up. Their curses will cancel each other out, and they'll both go on to find the love of their lives. It's a bonkers idea, and it just might work. Emma hadn't planned that her next assignment as a traveling nurse would be in Minnesota, but she and her best friend agree that dating Justin is too good of an opportunity to pass up, especially when they get to rent an adorable cottage on a private island on Lake Minnetonka. It's supposed to be a quick fling just for the summer, but when Emma's toxic mother shows up and Justin has to assume guardianship of his 3 siblings, they're suddenly navigating a lot more than they expected, including catching real feelings for each other. What if this time fate has actually brought the perfect pair together? So the first half of that sounds lighthearted. The second half does not. So maybe they just read the first half of it and were like, oh, cute cover.
Yeah.
Go with it. So, yeah. But I thought it was funny because Emily, our other book clubber, she said she likes Abby Jimenez because it's a romance with depth, because it does cover real issues. And I feel like all of her books kind of do that too. They're complex, but that's why I like them. And I don't feel like they did anything bad in that book blurb. I mean, the cover is super cute though. It's like 2 people frolicking in the water with a little dog. But then there was another review that said it was a lobotomy in a book form.
I think one of the reviews from one of the books I did had something similar.
And I just thought that was funny because the other person was complaining that it's too emotional and too deep. Not deep, but too triggering, I guess. And the other one's like, there's nothing there.
Yeah, that's really funny. And I've only read Part of Your World, and I think part of me being hesitant to read the others, and I know I will love them because Part of Your World was amazing, is that I think I'm wanting more like rom-com than serious in mine, which is why I think I lean more towards Catherine Center, even though she does have heavy stuff too. It feels less heavy. I don't know. Or it's just not as, I don't know. But I will read more of Abby Jimenez's books because I do know that you guys all love her. And I really did love Part of Your World. Okay. Well, I did not do ACOTAR, but I did A Court of Mist and Fury because that's the one that is my favorite. And I got a few. And so just what I expected. DNF. Seriously, anyone who manages to finish this book deserves an award. I'm very proud to announce that my desire to read overhyped YA/book talk fantasy romance era is officially over.
Agreed.
Like, I understand because one of my friends just reread the ACOTAR books and was basically like, oh my gosh, it just drags and drags and drags. And I can understand that, even though this is like I say that this is my favorite book of all time. Really? Jurassic Park.
I was of all time?
Okay. We'll say my favorite romance.
Okay.
Romantasy, I don't know, favorite fantasy something. Because it has recent. So I'm like, it has recent, and I love recent. And I really appreciate the slow burn of this long book, because I think if it had been any shorter, I would not be able to believe in their romance. Like, I would not believe that she could just get over everything and go through all that. And I loved that. But I can also see if you don't love it as much as I do, you don't love recent, then yeah, it probably does drag quite a bit. It's very long. So I can respect that. But I do like, but I think I will say, okay, if we want to be honest, favorite book of all time is probably Jurassic Park. Like, I hate to say that, but I'm pretty sure that
when you said that, I was like, what?
No, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure if I had to pick one, it would be Jurassic Park. I don't know what's wrong with me. Anyway, but yeah, I can respect, but I still will forever love this. I mean, just like I love the Twilight books. Oh, I didn't look up. Maybe I'll look up while we're talking. I didn't even think to look those up. I bet there are some.
I thought that you were gonna. have it for
Oh
sure.
my gosh. I did not even think to do that. Oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me. Well, anyway, you go. I have a bunch, but I'm going to go look some up for that because I can't believe I forgot.
I might do 2 in a row because this one's pretty short, the first one. But
do it.
It's another Abby Jimenez. It's Part of Your World. It's the first book in that series. And
Yes.
someone said, I knew I wasn't going to like this book. And here I am. And I'm like, okay, so if you go into a book and you don't think you're going to like it, why are you reading it? Why are you spending your time? That's just one of those things. I can see like if it's for a book club or something like that, like you wanted to read it to get it, you know, as part of your community. But I saw a number of reviews as I was looking through this, and they were 1 star saying, I went into this thinking I wasn't going to like it, and I'm not wrong. If you think that you're not going to like a book, don't read it. Right. There's too many books out there. There's way too many books to do that. The next one I have, while you're still looking that up, it's The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston.
Which I still need to read that because you rave about that book.
I enjoyed it a lot. It's a woman who her father has died, so she goes back to her family home and she can see ghosts. So she sees ghosts. It might be too much for you because I know you don't like some of that, but this person's review said, loved the story, hated the woke BS element that added nothing to the story, but rather detracted from it, won't be reading this author ever again. And I had to be like, okay, what were the woke BS moments? And then reading some other 1 star reviews, someone, I guess she had a character who was non-binary and had used they, them. And that was it? That was it. That was the only thing that made them hate this book so much that they would give it a 1 star. And I was like, I wonder if wasn't for that. Anyway.
Yeah. That came up in one that I'll talk about later too.
And another one from, I guess this was a big contentious point for this book, which I glossed over, but I guess one of the characters calls coffee her Zoom Zoom juice.
Oh my gosh.
And there were numerous, not just 1, not just 2, but very many 1 star reviews saying they hated this book because the character called coffee Zoom Zoom juice. I was like, that just seems like a weird random reason to hate an entire book. And it's something that I don't even remember. If that, you know, like the... I mean, you're just the story. You remember certain parts. I'm sure there's certain characters in books that have done things that I can't stand as well. But I just thought it was really funny that so many people fixated on Zoom Zoom juice.
Okay, I'm going to not do Twilight right now because there was one that connected. I got to find, I don't know if I even saved it, but I know I had other reviews for it. But I looked up, even though it's not a favorite book of mine by any means, I still looked it up because it was a recent one, The Sunrise on the Reaping. And there was one that was basically so disappointed in the LGBTQ part. By the way, I guess I just don't even notice that. I don't even know which characters we're referring to for this. Like, because I would not say romance was a big part of this. Like, so who cares? I mean, not that you should care if it was, but, and then it was like, if you want a good Christian romance, I suggest you read this. I'm like, this, first of all, this was not proclaimed to be it wasn't a romance. It wasn't proclaimed to be a Christian book. And I don't see why that would disappoint you. And I mean, I'm a Christian and I wouldn't, you know, whatever. I'm not going to get into that. I realize Christians believe different things. If you don't know that, you should know that. Like, I'm like pretending to wave a flag right now. I'm like, I am an ally, fully support people. I'm a Christian and I know not all Christians, you know, believe that, but whatever, that's their problem, not mine. But I was just like, you wrote a review about that. Like, it was so stupid. I couldn't even think, which characters are you mad about?
And off the top of my head, I can't think either.
Right.
But I find that so interesting. Whenever I went to get my hair done 2 weeks ago, there was a girl that came in to get some highlights done, and she had Sunrise on the Reaping, and she was a teenager, and she brought it out. And I was like, oh, what are you reading? And she's like, oh, Sunrise on the Reaping. She's like, this is my, I think, 3rd time reading it, is what she said. But she had taken like note tabs and note tabbed pages. And I mean, it was beautifully done. And I was like, it looks like you're doing like a research project on it. And she's like, I just love all my favorite parts and I want to go back to certain things. And so they're colored differently. I was like, that is amazing. And I was like, I didn't say anything bad. I didn't say I hated that book. But I did say something about like, oh, my friend thought it was very similar to Catching Fire. And,
Mm-hmm.
we talked a little bit about that. But I just thought it was so interesting that she had read it 3 times, loved it, found so much, in it that she wanted to reread it and take note tabs on it.
Right. Well, let me read you some more reviews that I
Okay.
think I agree with. This was funny. Clearly, I'm living in the wrong timeline because what the heck was this? And
Is
then,
this for Sunrise on the Reaping?
yes,
Okay.
stop with the poems already. Ugh. Boo,
Yes.
tomatoes, tomatoes. And then a longer one. So far, this book is so blank, blank, blank. The character of Haymitch is unrecognizable. The themes lamenting about how awful the American. Oh, I guess they're comparing it to the American government. Okay, whatever. Um, but I want to
Sometimes
skip
people
down
just
to
want to
the,
take that political
I
stance on it
guess,
and have to relate
yeah,
everything back to how
yeah.
they
Well, and
feel. I mean,
I agree that Haymitch was unrecognizable, but it says update. I finished the book and am absolutely floored at the praise this piece of blank is getting. Unbelievable. I'm sorry, but the writing and plot was so unbelievable and bad. I was just angry reading it. Hard finish. So I think this sounds like a spite
that sounds
finish.
like a spite finish,
So yeah.
which I had never heard that term before, but now spite finish.
I think I'm gonna use it, even though I don't think I will be spite finishing anything, but that's okay. All right, so I got some Twilight ones. This one vomits aggressively. Did I like it? No. Will I read the next one? Yes. um, let's see here. Let me see. I mean, there's just about the thing is they're all so long, and I'm like,
So a lot of them, it was like, here's my dissertation on why I hated this book. And I'm like, can't we just get like a 3-sentence summary?
I know, like this is hysterically. I mean, I had no expectations, yet I still managed to be disappointed.
I have a hard time with a book that I really like writing a long review.
Yeah,
But some of these
same.
people were like, here it all is. Here's 10 pages with GIFs and
Oh my God.
and parts of the, summaries of the
Yeah.
text here about why
Okay,
I
this
hated
one. 1 star for the one brain cell that Bella has. DNF. What a bad excuse for something called a book. Yeah, I didn't really vibe with the beginning of the book, so I DNF'd it. Boring main character and kinda not that interesting plot, in my opinion. Anyway, so there we go. Twilight, now that I remembered to go look, I still can't believe I did not even think to look up Twilight.
I can't believe you didn't either. I
Oh,
did
well,
look up
whatever.
Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone
Okay.
because I was like, who doesn't love Harry Potter? And I forgot that
Wait.
J.K. Rowling
Yes.
has said some things that
Mm-hmm.
riled some people up. And this is kind of where I was like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. There's another author too that I'll bring up later that their personal beliefs have tainted the characters they created. Because when I read Harry Potter, I thought it was a magical world where everybody was accepted and loved.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
kind of feels like maybe J.K. Rowling doesn't have that same vibe. But I mean, based
Hey,
off
that
the things that
doesn't
she said.
that does
But,
in my opinion, that does not change the world. What we
and
read of it and what we got out of it is what is real, not her opinion
and I
outside of
think
it.
from that one person perspective that you had just read, like you take out of a book what you're going to take out of it. I mean, 10 different people can read the same book and have 10 different perspectives on it. So I think that's why it's fun to do this. But this also was my favorite book review was the Harry Potter.
Okay, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
I thought this was funny. The book review is from Voldemort. This is a disgrace to all purebloods. My head looked quite dashing on that strange professor's head. If only I could have extended my stay. Harry Potter, this is not over yet.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
And I was like, that's pretty clever that someone, it was back in 2014, made an account just so they could be Voldemort reviewing this book.
I love it. I fully support that decision, even though I love the books, but that is awesome. All right, I did the Inheritance games because that's one. I don't remember. Did I mention it on our episode about?
We just talked about it.
Yeah, when we talked about because it was one that I definitely. Oh yeah, during 2020. So I looked up because I love this book. So we've got I too will be expecting a surprise $1 billion inheritance as compensation for how much I suffered while reading this. This is just a modern take on the white girl is very special, but no one knows why and has to choose between two virtually identical white boys who are both in love with her for some reason. Whatever will she do? Also, I don't care about billionaires, so can someone give me 5 reasons as to why I read this? Um, Another one. This said it would be like Knives Out. I wanted Knives Out. It gave me Truly Devious and Paper Princess. They lied to me. Okay, to be fair, I think Truly Devious, that little trilogy, which they've expanded upon, but the original trilogy, really good. When they started to, it's one that Emily and I read during COVID, and it was really good. Little YA kind of mystery type thing, and then she added another one and that one was bad. But like the first 3 were so good. And so when it said that, I was like, no, but I like that. Okay, this is funny too. What in the Vampire Diaries, but without vampires is going on? No, just no. I had to save all those because they were so funny. I was like, this is amazing. Like,
that is.
I feel like it was
I can see how it could be compared to a vampire. Or I was actually in my head when he said it was the two white guys fighting over the white girl. I was picturing Twilight. I was like, you have 2, well, they weren't both white, but you have 2 guys. Taylor Lautner, I believe he has some melanin, but
yeah, well, he was supposed to be from a Native American tribe.
So my next one was The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer, and I think we collectively all loved this. What did they say it was supposed to be? Like a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory retelling kind of thing. Some people had said like basically this was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory without anything good. Like no envelope buzz. I was like, oh man, I love it. But my favorite one was, my wish is for a time machine to get back the hours I spent reading this book. I was just like,
that is
poor Meg Schaefer.
Yes, for real. Did I do that one? I might have. Oh, I did that one too. Did I have that one? Yes, I screenshot that same one.
Did you?
Right there. Yes, I did. I did that. You're right. Funny. That's such a good one. That is the best review from that one for sure. Okay, I did The Love Hypothesis. I don't know what kind of drugs y'all are on, but I evidently did not receive my portion. Okay, let's see here. I'm blocking everyone who said this was good on Book Talk. I was like, I think I heard about it from Book Talk. So yeah,
I have that one as well.
Okay, what did you get? Any other one?
He had her whole boob in his mouth. I'm scared. And then another one, finding out that this book was originally an Adam Driver Star Wars fanfic has really shaken things into perspective for me. I wish I had never known. Some scenes in this book haunt me way too much, not in a good way. If a guy could fit my entire boob in his mouth, I'd be effing terrified.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Oh my gosh.
And I did Bride by Ali Hazelwood.
Okay, let's see.
Bride was like a different vibe for her because she always does science kind of books. But this one, it was vampire and werewolves. And
it's a fantasy.
If you have read this book, you'll get this one. It said, yeah, this did not serve.
Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no.
So if you haven't read that, there's a thing called nodding. You can Google it if you're very brave.
Yeah, don't Google it. Ask a dog.
Phone a friend.
Ask a dog breeder. That's probably easier. Just do that. Or vet. Ask a veterinarian. Ask a veterinarian. There we go. All right. I did The Teacher by Frida McFadden.
Okay.
And so, okay, seriously, what the F? This book owes me an apology. Then maybe one more. 1.5 stars. Digging a grave is hard work. And if you've read the book, that will make more sense. If you haven't read the book, it doesn't make much sense. But yeah, the people were not a fan. And I can respect that because I don't like teacher-student affairs. But there's some good twists in that one if you haven't read it. Just saying.
I think I've only read like 2 of her books.
Well, if you ever decide to read another, ask me because I've read so many. I can tell you which one. Well, not all of them, but most of them. And I can tell you which ones are like, no, that's not worth your time. So
So this one I thought was funny. It's Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, which is
Yes.
number 7 in the book series. I detest Harry Potter. I was working in a bookstore when this book came out, a tiny independent bookstore with floor displays of Cormac McCarthy and Jung, or Young. Jung? Jung? Is that Young?
I am not sure.
Anyway, I don't even want to tell you how many boxes my boss ordered of this. He had to sign a non-disclosure agreement that was about 10 pages long, and then I had to sell them to people all day long, and I had to gift wrap them. Nobody had said anything about gift wrapping being part of selling books. I can sell books all day long. I could recommend books till your ears fall off. Gift wrapping? Yeah, no. I still remember one elderly couple obviously buying a present for a young relative whose annoyance turned into visible pity as they watched, who then murmured, "That's all right. We'll just take that one home, dear." My friends that should be friends still think this is funny. And I'm like, okay, I think this person just thinks they're better than everyone else.
I think so too. It sounds like it.
Because Cormac McCarthy is heavy reading. The whole thing, I was like, I think they just disliked working at the bookshop and having to sell things that are commercially successful and gift wrap.
Right?
And that made them hate Harry Potter because they had to gift wrap something. I was like, what a weird.
Yeah, what a weird reason to hate Harry Potter.
To give someone a 1 star.
Yeah. Okay, I did Beautiful Ugly, which is one that I read recently. It says, "Ugh, this was not good. At least there's a dog. You're a good boy, Columbo." Which, just so that you know, Emily read it first, and she was very worried about the dog. And she assured me before I read it that the dog would be okay. Because,
sometimes you have to have that, because I know that you're not a fan of that.
I am not. And then another review, I wish I could unread this. So yeah, I mean, I get it. I feel like Alice Feeney is hit or miss for me. And I don't think I saved any reviews from the one that was my favorite of hers, but I should have, because they were all just so long that I was like, oh no, I did. Okay, never mind. I lied. We'll get to that one eventually. Go ahead. Your turn.
All right. So I did Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros.
I knew you were going to. I knew it.
I will admit I loved Fourth Wing. I gave it 5 stars. As they go on, they get a little less good. My personal opinion.
Yes.
But this person gave 1 star. And the only comment is, Xaden wears skinny jeans.
I can see that.
And then there was another comment right after that said, 1 star, I should have DNF'd this when I found out he wears skinny jeans. What is it with the skinny jeans?
But you know what? I think they're getting a picture of a specific type of guy.
Yeah.
And I think skinny jeans can look good on the right guy.
Yes.
But
I
it's
agree.
like, that's
but
really
the skinny
funny.
jeans generation, so maybe that's...
Maybe? I don't know. Okay, I did The Only One Left by Riley Sager. You read that one, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this is so funny because it's my favorite one. I think it's his best book. And I would say collectively, people think either this one or Home Before Dark are his best books. And so this one day I would like to read a Riley Sager book and be satisfied from beginning to end. I yearn for that day, ... But that day is not today again. And then this is a good one because now remember, the name of the book is The Only One Left. Even if this book was the only one left, I still wouldn't recommend reading it. I love these people. They're amazing.
They're hilarious.
Yeah. Makes me want to rethink my reviews.
Right. This one was My Sister's Keeper by Jodi Picoult.
Oh, yes, your favorite.
And I laughed at this because I'm like, this was the whole point of the book.
Oh, gosh.
Spoiler alert, giving this 1 star just because I finished it. It put me off reading anything else by this author because I found the entire premise offensive. Offensive, in all caps. Purposely having a child so it could be sacrificed over and over and over for another is heinous. That couple should lose their children for reasons of abuse. The doctors should lose their licenses to practice for violating their Hippocratic oaths. Obviously, Pico got the opposite emotional response she was hoping for from me. From a storytelling perspective, she fails completely at the ending by taking the easy road. Haha, yes, it's intended to accomplish her finish.
No, I think that the funny thing is most of that review, I'm like, no, you felt exactly what you were supposed to feel.
you felt like what you were supposed to feel. You were supposed to feel outraged by this.
Yeah, she was not glorifying this. She was not like, yeah, this is
in no
great.
way, shape, or form.
Like,
that's why the girl was suing her family for bodily autonomy.
Like, right?
I was like, did you just not get the concept of the book?
I mean, right? And I thought the ending was very, the word I can't say, with poignant, that one. Yes, that one. I thought it was like, of course that's what would happen. I don't know. I thought it was a great ending. So, okay. I did another Frida McFadden, The X. Okay, I have multiple here. This book was terrible. Then another one, Taking a Break from Frida, disappointing story and confusing. Then one more, Spectacularly Stupid. And you know what's funny? I don't remember anything about this book, but I gave it 5 stars. Nothing. I bet if I read the synopsis, maybe I'd remember something.
Something would percolate, but no.
But right now, there is absolutely no memory of this book whatsoever. What you gonna do?
That's a lot of books I read. I'm like, I know I liked it, but why?
Yeah, no memory. All right, you're up.
So this book is a classic, Anne of Green Gables. We're currently reading it, and I'm like, who could hate Anne of Green Gables? Several people, apparently. One person said, I completely understand that the point of this novel, that Anne is there to help change these adults that are fusty and set in their ways or too outspoken, and that they, in turn, will help Anne develop as a person to stop being so vain and to learn from her mistakes. And she surely does. Her life at Green Gables is full of experience, so many that she can learn a little something from each of them, an idyllic place to do such a thing. The writing was not terrible, yet that is all I can really say anything positive of. Anne herself was such a melodramatic, self-absorbed, incessant child that I could barely stand her. She spoke too much, far too much, to the extent that what she was saying, utter nonsense most of the time, took up several pages all at once. It was the largest waste of tree I have ever known. The other characters were no better, but it was Anne who annoyed me the most. There was little plot with zero conflict, except for a few oopsies done by Anne herself. Little misdemeanors that surprisingly barely made any of the adults angry, and if they were even slightly angered by her words or actions, they would forgive her almost instantly because Anne is such a wonderful, queer, interesting little girl. I was like, okay. And then someone said, when Anne starts talking, usually a wall of text appears, needlessly long, painfully boring, overly emotional, and with an abundance of irrelevant details. I don't have enough patience to read this book. Anne just keeps talking, and then talking again. She seems unable to think. She just talks. One of the most annoying characters ever. I'm not surprised that nobody wanted to keep her. I'm with Marilla when she says, for pity's sake, hold your tongue.
Oh my gosh. That was so harsh.
The last one was, it was okay. I don't really like classics. I'm more of a slime person. Yeah.
Okay, that's funny.
I was laughing because I was like, oh my gosh, the whole point of Anne is that she's a child and she just talks and doesn't think. And that's part of, as you read all the books, she's growing up and developing that sense of holding her tongue and learning things. And I feel like that's the whole, like, again, it's the point of the book. Like
right? Oh, definitely.
I mean, if you don't like classics and you're a slime person, I get it.
But yeah, the other stuff.
I don't find Anne annoying. And I think that when any kid does things wrong, you want to talk to them about it. You don't want to imprison them.
Right.
And the fact when she said that, like, I'm not surprised that nobody wanted to keep her. I'm like,
oh my gosh, that was harsh.
Harsh.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, leaving the classics, back to more thrillers. Sometimes I Lie. This is another one of those where they did a good job with this review. Amazing, superb, thrilling, exciting novel, ... But hey, sometimes I lie.
That's awesome.
I was like, I have to save that one. Like, some of these are just straight up amazing. Like, love it.
That is. Yeah. My next one is They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. And the first one is They Both Died. And the second 1-star review was I hope they stay dead. It's like just harsh. But, gosh. It literally says it in the title. They both die at the end. It sets up that expectation. You know what's coming the whole time. They both die at the end. There
Yeah.
you go.
All right. So I did lessons in chemistry.
Okay.
Apparently, this book only supports women in STEM if they're atheists. And I don't think that's true, but okay. And then I wish I could give this book 0 stars.
Which I thought that was a really good book. I know some people didn't like, I guess, how her character was portrayed, but
Yeah.
not everybody is the same way. I mean, some
No.
people didn't, they felt like she was autistic and they didn't want that. They wanted, I don't know
Yeah.
what they wanted, but
Well, there was
it's a
one
good
that
book.
there's one that cut off. This is supposedly set in the 1960s, but the only way you know it is whatever. And my mom felt like this was a very good example of her time period growing up. So she had a completely, I mean, I don't know if that person who wrote that part of the review was when they were born, but I feel like I couldn't make that judgment call. It's kind of like if my students were like, well, everyone wore neon in the 1980s. And it's like, actually, go watch an 80s movie of adults and most people. No, we're not all just dressed in this fun bright neon. The fashion was in a lot of ways quite awful, and some of it's like mad respect for the shoulder pads and heels and stuff, but no, like no, I would feel like I can't comment on that because I wasn't alive during the 60s.
Right?
So yeah,
So,
anyway.
speaking of olden times, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E.
Ooh,
Schwab.
yes.
This quote says, "A life no one will remember, a story you will never forget." And they say, "Honestly, I want to forget this miserable experience, and I guarantee I will forget everything that happened in this book by tomorrow." I guess that's fitting.
Well, there you go. That is fitting, I suppose.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. But it sounds like they probably didn't forget since they had such strong feelings.
Apparently.
All right, I did The Silent Patient,
Okay.
and I have a few. One of them says, "Read anything else on your TBR first.
Oh.
Anything. Better yet, delete The Silent Patient." And then another one, "Not silent enough."
Oh. So I remember liking that book, but being confused at the ending and had to go back and
Okay.
reread and just make sure I was getting what they were saying.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah. No, that's fair. And I remember I figured out like right before the big reveal, like there's something where someone's walking down the street. I was like, oh my gosh. And I remember I was sitting out there by the fireplace reading, and I was like, oh my God. And like my then husband was on the couch and he's like, what? And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I'm trying to explain, and it is
everything,
confusing
yeah.
to explain it, and he didn't care. So, and that's not a dig at him. That's a dig at like anyone. That's not a dig at anyone. That's like,
As
you're
someone
reading a
that
book
doesn't read, yeah, if
or
you're
or
not
didn't read
invested,
the
yeah.
book, like they're not invested in the story, but you have to tell someone. Anyway. All right. Your turn.
So my next one was The Guncle by Stephen Rowley.
Oh,
And
so
I
good.
loved this book. I enjoyed the follow-up, didn't love it. Um,
Yeah.
but he's done some other books that are really good too. But they
Yeah.
said, "This book was a hard one for me to get into, let alone finish. I felt the Guncle was off-putting and an ass." He reminded me of Jesse Eisenberg in Social Network or Zombieland, that egotistical kind of person that thinks you're stupid no matter what. I would say the last 100 pages were the most interesting, and the Guncle becomes slightly more tolerable. The writing style was just not my thing. But I feel like
Oh.
that's part of the Guncle. Like, again, that's his whole personality,
Yeah.
is he's this kind of jerk
Yeah.
person. But
Yeah. I mean, that is kind of the point.
that's the point.
Okay. I did a few from Daisy Jones and the Six.
Okay.
I would rather read Twilight or a Colleen Hoover book, but then I remember they are just as bad. LOL. All the hype for this. This was so boring. I didn't even finish it. Yikes. And then I read it so I could watch the show and see what the hype's all about. Now that I read it, I don't want to watch the show. Um, Started it, couldn't get past the first few chapters. Not for me. And then the best one, don't do drugs, kids. Oh, yeah.
So I loved The House on the Cerulean Sea by T.J.
Oh,
Klune.
yes, yes.
I loved Under the Whispering Door. Did not love the robot Pinocchio one that he did, but I was surprised at how many people hated The House on Cerulean Sea and the reasons they hated it. Because I
Okay.
figured that it was because it does have some LGBTQI plus
Yeah.
characters. One of the characters who's a child is Satan's son.
Yep.
There's some things in it, right?
Yeah.
But I guess I had no idea this was a thing. This is one of those talking about the way that the author got the book idea. Says, nope, 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 nope. I'll be honest, I read it and I loved it. Writing was great and everything. Then months after reading it, I discovered that this book was inspired by Canada's 60s scoop. It remained fuzzy until I stumbled across the 60s scoop, something I'd never heard of before, something I'd never been taught in school. I'm American, by the way. In Canada, beginning in the 1950s and continuing through the 1980s, Indigenous children were taken from their homes and families and placed into government-sanctioned facilities, such as residential schools. The goal was for primarily white middle-class families across Canada, the US, and even Europe to adopt these children. It's estimated that over 20,000 Indigenous children were taken, and it wasn't until 2017 that the families of those affected reached a financial settlement with the Canadian government totaling over $800 million. Even the description of a residential schools is sugarcoating it. He bedazzled and turned it into fantasy the trauma of children who were forcibly separated from their families in a cultural genocide that involved torture, SA, and murder. So, part of an actual genocide. And then acted like it was all figured out after a settlement, literally profiting off of missing and undocumented children and people who are still living with the trauma of residential schools, who are still living like second-class citizens in their country due to the impact of those schools. And it goes on from there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
It made me think, okay, if someone is getting an idea, and I struggled with this a little bit because I can see what they're saying. Like, you don't want to take that and romanticize it because it was not something to be romanticized. But at the same time, I'm looking at the book and it's children who are living in a residential home. Mm-hmm. And in this particular residential home, they're being well cared for.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I struggled with that one because I'm like, okay, I don't see that the residential schools for Indigenous peoples were the right, like, clearly those were the wrong things to do. Clearly should not have happened. But I guess I take I don't get that from House on the Cerulean Sea.
No, I think that's someone, even if it was said that it was inspired in some way by that, like gave an idea to go some way, it doesn't sound like it represented that at all. And in fact, it showed them like protecting and saving these children that otherwise would not have been.
I can see if you were talking about House in the Cerulean Sea, the main caretaker, like his story went from when he was a kid.
Yeah.
He was trapped in a basement or whatever, and he was abused. Like, that was a thing that had happened to him, but he was now trying to protect other children from that happening to them. Mm-hmm. So I guess I didn't take it the same way that other people took it, and I enjoyed the story for what it was.
Yeah, I thought it was a very beautiful story.
Yeah.
And I feel like it pushed the boundaries. I mean, the fact the Antichrist being in it was kind of a big thing.
It was so funny. But...
Okay, I did one that we recently read.
Okay.
The Wedding People. And I have a few. So this one says, this trash of a book has won Goodreads Choice Award as the best fiction of 2024. I really can't believe my eyes. Just goes to show how ridiculous this award system is. Okay, that last line pissed me off because I'm like, do you know how it works? Like,
people vote for it, right?
Right. Like, people on Goodreads.com vote. So no, it's not like Goodreads decided.
And if I would have read that in 2024, that would have been my favorite book of the year.
Right. I would have voted for that. I didn't vote for it because I hadn't read it. And I just cannot, I'm like, do you not understand how this works? And maybe not, because to be fair, especially if you're using Goodreads in the app, it's not always user-friendly. And perhaps you didn't know you could vote on this, but you definitely can. Oh, this is really great. This person's stupid. At the front of it says edit 5/12/24. Okay, I think they meant 5/12/25. Because it won Book of the Year from last year, and you wouldn't have known that because those awards, yeah. So I think so anyway, sorry, girl, and that was a girl. So then I do have a few more. When the Pandemic, immediately no. Let's see here. I think that is. Wait, is this another one?
The Pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah, that one. I was like, okay, okay, but yeah. yeah, I guess that's all that I have for that one. I thought I had more. But anyway, that one where I was like, do you not understand how this voting worked? Like,
Yeah.
and you can't, if a lot of people liked it, you can't be like, well, the voting was rigged. Oh, wait, that is the era that we live in now. Sorry, I forgot. I forgot. When I don't get my way, it means the election was stolen or rigged or whatever, right? Every time. But when
Yep.
I get my way, it's perfectly correct.
Yep. Even in the book world.
Even in the book world. Yeah,
The life we live in.
for real. All right, you got any more?
I think that was all that I had.
Okay, I
So
think I
if
have
you have some more funny ones.
I have I have one more that we have to do, okay? Because it's one that we both liked. And I have a few from this one. We're talking about James.
Okay.
And so I cannot believe this was a Pulitzer finalist. It felt like reading an eighth grade writing assignment. And then there's one that's like, no, 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 exclamation mark. Let's see here. The first 80% of this book is amazing. Then it morphs into utter incomplete garbage. Hard, hard pass. So
I
there
can
we
see
go.
how, so I think we had talked about it. The ending is a little bit different than the rest of the book. And it kind of takes on,
Yeah.
it takes on its own thing too, because it differs from Huck Finn in
Yeah.
that last little bit there.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's why people didn't like it, was because it was such a departure.
I mean, I guess so, but
It's
I thought it was a well
James's
done.
story. Yeah.
Right. And I liked that it was different. I hated the end of Huckleberry Finn. I thought it was so stupid. So, yes, I thought it was a much better ending than the
I
original.
agree.
So, it worked. It made sense. So,
And I think
disagree.
it's very easy to say, I love a book, I hate a book, but sometimes there's a lot of middle ground. But the
Hmm.
1-star reviews are just hilarious. And I think it
Yeah.
goes to show that you can love a book and someone else can totally hate it. And you can hate a book and someone else can totally love it. Not
Yeah.
all books are for all people.
Nope.
So it really does just depend on who's reading it and what they're reading. It can even be, I think I said this, I read the second of the Fourth Wing books. And the first time I read it, I was
Hmm.
like, this was like a 3-star read. And the second
Yeah.
time I read it, I was like, oh, I get it more now. 5-star
Hmm.
read.
Yeah.
So I think that it can change with your time and space as well. Maybe you've grown or life has happened in a different way and you can see things differently. I think we had talked about at one point, one of the episodes that we did about some children's books that we had both liked. And
Hmm.
I think it would be interesting now to go back and read some of those and see how our opinions of them have changed or morphed since we read them as 8,
Hmm.
9-year-olds, 13-year-olds.
Hmm. Well, and as an avid rereader, I have done that with some, and it is interesting because some of them you still can feel the magic. Like, I recently reread The Dollhouse Murders, and that one always just maintains that magic as much as it can to an adult. But that being said, other ones that I've reread, like I reread Catcher in the Rye, and I loved that book in high school. I thought it was so good. And when I reread it as an adult, I was like, why did I like this?
I'm
Like,
kind of scared to reread it because I also
I
loved
know.
it.
Yeah, like I was shocked. I thought this is going to be so fun. And then I did not love it. And I'm trying to think, I feel like it's hit or miss, but I feel like mostly it is kind of just a nice way to revisit. Like you'll notice things like, oh, this is very YA, even though like I think about with Sweet Valley High, reading them when I was younger than the characters, it was like, oh my gosh, they're so grown up. And then reading it, it's like, and some of it's like they do act more grown up, or they seem to be treated more like grown ups than perhaps we were viewed or our children were viewed, in high school. And that is interesting. But yeah, it is. I know it makes me scared to reread other ones that, well, like I talked about, there's a boy in the girls' restroom. And when I reread it as an adult, it had lost all magic.
Magic.
Like,
Yeah.
like it just was like, I
And
can't believe I
I'm
loved this book.
I'm not a rereader. So for me, that would be going back and like it makes me a little bit nervous because I do
Hmm.
feel like I was in a totally different space. The only ones I can
Yeah.
remember rereading are Number the Stars, Devil's
Yeah.
Arithmetic, because I read those like all the time.
Over and
And I
over.
think I've
Yeah.
read those as adults, as my kids read them,
Hmm.
because I made
Hmm.
them read them. And I'm like, I want to read them
Yeah.
again. And
Yeah.
those books still held the same magic for me. But
Yeah. I think
if
the
like R.L.
really
Stine and
good
Christopher
ones.
Pike. Yeah.
Well, and I will say too, when we did To Kill a Mockingbird before Ghost Set a Watchman, which I ended up not even reading Ghost Set a Watchman, I was really sad rereading To Kill a Mockingbird because when I read it, I think I read it sophomore year, and I will say I was the kid that like I knew what a good gig I had as a kid. So I was not eager to grow up as quickly as other people. Like I think I tried to hold on to childhood longer than maybe other kids did. And so when I read it in 10th grade, it resonated so much because there was so much of them playing outside in the summer, and it made me think of going to my grandparents' house and being outside and things like that. And it just felt like I connected so well with it. And then as an adult, when I reread it, like I could understand the nostalgia, but I know it meant so much more when I was 15 because it still was kind of there a little bit. I was trying to still hold on to that, not just completely move on to, you know, being more of a grown up than a kid.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I was the opposite. I was
I
ready to
know.
grow up.
I know. I feel like most people were. I was not. I was like, I
And
know. I know.
now I want to go back and play. I'm like, let's go play. Let's
I
go have fun.
know. I know. I know for real. But yeah, that was so much fun though.
That was. We'll have to do that again at some other point in the future and talk about maybe we can go the opposite and do our least favorite books.
Oh gosh. And the
Fun
five-star
reviews.
Okay, I think we should do that. I think that would be fun.
That would be fun. We'll have to do it.
We will.
But until next time, we will see all of you later.
Right. Bye.
Bye.
So thank you for listening to More Than a Book Club podcast. We are recorded and produced in McKinney, Texas.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.